And now on WRS, Michael McKay with the McKay Interview.
Hello everyone. Today I'm in the heart of Geneva, just a few minutes from the Gare de Cornevin. If you don't know Geneva very well, that's the main railway station. I'm on a mission to examine the effect on important sectors of Geneva's economy of what in English we've come to call the lockdown, and in French, le confinement, if my pronunciation is correct, brought about, as we all have experienced over the past 6 months, by COVID-19 and the pandemic. Now, whether you live in and around Geneva or in other parts of Switzerland or across the border in neighbouring France, or in fact wherever you happen to be listening to me now, you will surely know that the lockdown enforced by the government and public health authorities has had a damaging, even in some cases devastating effect on the economy and people. And one business sector in particular, namely the hotel and hospitality sector. So for my own benefit, and I hope yours too, dear listeners, today's interview is a reality check on what is going on in that sector and how its short to medium-term future looks, and the chance to benefit from some expert insights and learn things that we did not know before. Now, to help me come to terms with reality, I'm in one of my favorite restaurants, whose tables I've been patronizing for about 30 years, Le Milan. And by the way, it's one of Geneva's longest established restaurants. And with the help of the proprietor, Daniel Grangier, have gathered around me three other people who, like Daniel, have their finger very much on the pulse of Geneva's economic reality today. Now, it's mid-morning in the city, so please forgive a little background noise from time to time as people come and go as they prepare for lunchtime business. As I said, I have three other guests around the table with me and Daniel. They are important people in Geneva's business community, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves briefly so that you can put a name to their respective voices. Now, I've only two microphones for four of us to share, so please forgive me if you hear the sound of a little fumbling as I pass the mics around the table to my guests. Let me start by welcoming all of you to the McKay Interview. Thank you for making time for me. And by first of all introducing you, Daniel, as we're in your house, so to speak. Daniel, thanks so much for your hospitality and coffees this morning. And please introduce yourself to the listeners with just a few words. Daniel.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much for making this interview in my restaurant. My name is Daniel Grangier, and I've been running this restaurant for 11 years. As you may know, we are one of the oldest restaurants in Geneva because the restaurant was created in 1910. Which will be a big celebration at the end of the year for the 110th birthday. And I have a passion for food, wine, and I'm a gastronome. And I think you know me as well as someone who likes to take care of the customers and preparing great dishes and good food for our clients.
Great. Now, Adrien, Genier.
Hello, my name is Adrien Genier. I'm the CEO for Geneva Tourism and Congress. So it's the marketing agency for everything that is related to tourism. Also passionate about good food. That was one of my first internship in a kitchen many years ago. And I've been working in the past 7 years for Switzerland Tourism. So doing the promotion of Switzerland as a destination, and now focusing on the beautiful city of Geneva, who, as you mentioned, is going through a tremendous crisis. Complicated time for all our partners, hoteliers and restaurants, but also all the other that are related to the tourism industry. So we talk about bakers, about flower producers, about all the people who are directly linked to this industry.
And now to you, Thierry.
Hi, Michael. Good morning to all. Basically, I have two hats. My first hat is that I am the general manager of the Fairmont Grand Hotel Geneva, the largest five-star hotel in Switzerland. And my second hat is a very important one as well. I am the president of the Geneva Hotel Association.
Great, Thierry. Thank you. And lastly, you, Vincent.
A very warm good morning to you, Michael. A pleasure to be on the mic with you all in that very pleasant setting, enjoying a nice coffee for a good start of the week. My name is Vincent Subilia. I'm the CEO of the Geneva Chamber of Commerce, a private institution which has been advocating the voice of the Geneva business community for 155 years now, to the benefits of its 2,500 corporate members. We I guess, are the trusted advisor of the business and also cast an eye and have a global view of the situation, which is unprecedented. Again, a very conventional background for me. I am a qualified lawyer, but I've also had a very vested interest for for hospitality management, and again, I believe that Geneva has a lot to offer, and in spite of the crisis that we are witnessing, I trust that we shall overcome it and grow even stronger.
Thank you very much, Vincent. Now we've got a lot to talk about, so let's dive straight in. Gentlemen, please give me and our listeners a quick assessment of how the extraordinary spring and summer of 2020 have been for you, or the interest that you speak for, and how prospects for the autumn and early winter 2021 look. Daniel, you start, and by the way, happy birthday to come for your big anniversary later on.
Thank you very much, Mike.
You go first, Daniel.
Sorry, I missed the question.
The question is a quick assessment of how the extraordinary spring and summer of this year have been for you, and how the prospects for the autumn and early winter 2021 look to you.
When we reopened in May this year, the business was very, very, very bad. We lost 70% of the sales. We had to put half of the team for unemployment. And after that, we started to create, to adapt and create new menus for the customers for a low price. And during June and July, I will say the sales dropped only by 50%, with the same 0.5% of the team in the kitchen in the staff service. And let's say for fall, I'm very skeptical. By talking to the customers today, we see the increase of COVID in Geneva, and what makes me very worried for the future, the near future, is that people will be scared again to go out, and that's my main issue today.
Thierry, we know that the hotel industry has been hit quite badly, but just tell us how badly, and many others are running on reduced staff, low occupancy, but I'm sure you've seen a lot in your career. Two questions in particular for you. Have you seen anything like this before in your recollection? And what does the hotel sector need to do, and need to do differently in order to keep the wolf from the door in 2021 and possibly even 2022? So it's a long question.
Yeah, it's a very good question, by the way. Thank you, Michael. First of all, in the hotel industry, we were the first one to fall into the crisis, and we will probably be the last one to emerge. From one day to the other, we had no more clients, all meetings were cancelled, all travels were stopped, and all food and beverage outlets were closed. Right now, we have no short-term vision, no mid-term or long-term visibility, as all events, or let's say 90% of the events, are all cancelled. So this situation, Michael, as you can imagine, is quite unique. We have no point of cooperation with the past. Just to give you an example, at the height of the crisis, 3/4 of our hotels' inventory in Geneva were closed. So this is
completely closed.
Completely closed. So this is absolutely unique and never seen before. What do we need to do to answer your second question? First of all, I think we need to reopen or to keep open the borders, to have less or no quarantine, to facilitate the restart of the civil aviation, and also to find a better balance between the economy-driven situation and the sanitary-driven situation. This is my point.
Okay. Let's bring Adrien in. Just give us a sense of your assessment of the spring and the summer, and looking ahead now is autumn, we're in autumn now, and the winter, and the prospects you see for early part of 2021. That's the first part.
Yeah. Well, as just mentioned, it's very hard to have some visibility in the next months, the autumn and winter to come, and also the beginning of 2021. It doesn't look very bright, I must say, especially because we have no stability. From one day to another, borders are closed. The airlines have also no visibility on when it will start again. So we are still just navigating with the radar, not more than that. Absolutely no visibility, and the radar is something you just have to keep on the indicators as much as possible. And for the first months, I must say, the situation until 13 of March has nothing to do with what happened after. As just mentioned, it is totally not unrealistic, but never lived before. Not only for the tourism industry, but on a global scale. When we had crisis before, you had one crisis or another, the SARS, the economy, or these ones were located for different regions. So if North America or the Americas were touched, you still could change your marketing efforts and work on another part of the world. Nowadays, the whole world is closed. And 82% of our customers come from other countries.
Say the percentage again, 82%?
82% of the overnights in Geneva are done by foreigners. So even if we double the number of Swiss citizens who are traveling now in Switzerland, you will merely get to 36%, which is totally unviable. And plus, all the cities are not very attractive to any kind of customers. I'm regularly in touch with my colleagues from Barcelona, Amsterdam, Rome, Milan, and all the cities are hit very strongly, 89, 92% minus in overnight for the month of July. So even big cities that are, thought like leisure-oriented destination, like would be Barcelona or Rome or Paris, have a very high impact on their tourism sites.
Let me bring Vincent in. Vincent, you've got the sort of overview. Give us your sense of the spring, summer, and looking ahead to autumn, winter next year.
Well, I'm afraid that the only certainty is that there is no certainty. And of course, predictability is key. It's an instrumental factor for all business and corporate actors, and we have no magic stick at this stage. We are indeed going through unprecedented times with unrivaled challenges for the economy in general and the tourism industry in particular, which, as Thierry rightly mentioned, was the first one to be hit by the crisis, potentially the last one to overcome it. What we have witnessed on average here in terms of the Geneva economic landscape, and I'd like here to salute the resiliency and the agility of the business actors who, in spite of the very severe damaging consequences, have displayed, and this is what Daniel also highlighted with his restaurant, by diminishing potentially the prices to show that ability to adapt and adjust to the circumstances. Also, I must say that the authorities have played their part. We, as you know, Michael, benefit in Switzerland from partial support for partial unemployment, and I think this has so far proven very beneficial. Of course, we all appreciate that this can't last forever, so it's only an intermediary solution, but nonetheless, it preserved to a large extent the workforce, and this is obviously a key factor. I'd like also, if I may, to praise the efforts that have been done by the tourism industry. And Adrien, you mentioned what you've been deploying. I think in these difficult times, what we also need is fraternity and solidarity, so that we all pull the same string. And this is probably one of the lessons to be learned in the short and medium term.
Thanks, Vincent. Let me just go back to Adrien. Regarding tourism to and in Geneva, Adrien, what is expected and even demanded of your organization, even though that might be a tough call? Tell us how your marketing of Geneva has had to change and will change as you look to 2021 and 22. What are you doing that is different?
I think one term that has been said by Vincent Subilia is key is agility. So we are working as much as possible on targeting the clientele that is able to travel. And as borders close and open very drastically and from one day to another, more or less, you need to be as agile as possible. The other part maybe is to get closer to our partners, hoteliers, cafe restaurants, but also service providers, and tell them we are here to raise your voice and bring it at the national level, at the state level, so that everybody understands what is your reality, what is the reality in a city, in a Swiss city, because it's very different. Again, in rural areas or mountain areas, the tourism has been booming this summer, and we don't want that some politicians think, well, you know what, the tourism in Switzerland hasn't been so bad. Well, that's correct for some rural areas and some mountainous regions, but for the cities, it has been very complicated. And I must say, if you look, if you went to some rural areas, it was packed, whereas in the city, it was quite easy to go around and visit. So I would say the potential tourists should rethink of going to cities, of not coming to cities, because it's a perfect time to go to cities. The passionate restaurants owners are offering great meals for really decent price. The hoteliers as well are open with wide open arms.
So you've adjusted your marketing to take that into account?
We adjusted the marketing in the different markets that we want to speak to, and also to explain that it's safe to come to a city. We use as much as possible the label clean and safe to tell everyone that we take every possible measure so that they can come and feel in a clean and safe area.
Okay, now Vincent, you're able to see the big picture as the leader of the Principal Chamber of Commerce, representing all types of businesses, but especially SMEs and petit moyen entreprises in the canton of Geneva. But you also have close interaction with the cantonal government, as you said. What can you tell us, without breaking any confidences, about your conversations with government? And what are you at the CCIG doing? How have you managed or managing to persuade the government to put in place programs that help the various businesses and commercial sectors that you represent?
Well, again, from a macro perspective, the Chamber is indeed a lobbying institution, so I think we've played our role to ensure that we can advocate the business voice vis-à-vis the cantonal and federal government, and I believe with that this has proven successful in terms of measures that were implemented. That said, we have no crystal ball, and there's always a very difficult balance to be struck between what can be invested to support economic actors and also the size of our pocket, which are quite deep in international comparison, but nonetheless we need to play some conservatism here, because there'll be an important deficit. But again, I believe that the support that we can add is key, and we have run quite a large number of initiatives precisely designated, designed at supporting. And we're here in the restaurant. We just launched one, which is Je soutiens mon resto, which is I support my restaurant, because between or behind every restaurant owner, there is an entrepreneur. And this is what's in the DNA of a chamber, and that's our daily business.
Thanks, Vincent. Daniel, you've heard what Vincent said. Is it enough? And in your view, what are your greatest priorities of need, and what are your priorities of action?
Well, like you said, all around this table, we are flying like in fog. It's very hard to imagine what tomorrow will be. What I can say today is that I can say a big thank you to Adrien and the Office of Tourism, who started to make those prepaid cards you gave to travelers in Geneva, even for the people from Geneva who get their cards. We can see this is already coming in the bank, and thank you very much. It's already good news for us. Now what we expect is that the hotels start to run again, because we are all linked, and at night 80% of my clientele is from America.
Again, 80%.
80%
Wow.
is America, China, Korea, and as long as those people are not coming back to Geneva, as long as the hotels are locked down or closed, there is no view for a bright future.
Okay.
But we have to keep working on low prices, and what we push now in my restaurant, we have been doing this for the last 3 or 4 years. I am what I am called a locavore, which means I buy local meat, local fish, local vegetable, and local fruits. 80% of the food we make here is from Geneva and around.
Okay.
And that's, I think we should focus on this. This helps also the agriculture, the winemakers,
Very important.
all the élevage.
Yeah.
around.
Today I'm in the heart of Geneva at the restaurant Le Milan, and I'm talking with my guests Daniel Grangier, Adrien, Genier, Thierry, Lavalley, and Vincent Subilia about the state of Geneva's economy and prospects for the future, especially in the hotel and hospitality sector. Now, as an English language radio station, many of our listeners are expats and not local Swiss nationals. Having said that, we should not assume that they are fully aware of how cities like Geneva are dependent on business coming in by road, rail, or air from outside. Let me ask each of you to talk about this and explain a few details that might be obvious to you, but not necessarily obvious to our listeners. And I'll start with you, Daniel. We've just spoken, I know, but let's go back into this again. How much of your business depends on what you'd call non-Genevois customers? And then we'll go to Thierry after that.
Like I said before, for lunchtime, we are pretty fine with the clientele we have. It's all regulars, it's all people walking around, and that's good for me. We still have almost the same number of dishes sold for lunchtime. But at dinner time, it's a nightmare. We lost 80%. So as long as those borders are closed, as long as the people cannot fly all over Europe and all over the world, we cannot have this clientele back here. So this means we're going to suffer a lot during the next few months, if not maybe during the next 12 months.
Thanks, Thierry. For those who don't know the market so well, who are listening, just tell us a little bit more detail about this.
Yes, sure. I think Adrien has touched the statistic right before. But basically, in our industry, hotel industry, 80 to 82% of our clientele are foreigners, so comes from abroad, and 18 to 20% are the domestic market. Until now, it has been a real strength for the destination. Until now, this type of statistic was a plus, a strength, but we have realized, of course, that as of this year, this statistic was not very much helpful, because of course we have been relying this year on the domestic market, and for sure it's what we are looking for with Adrien and the tourism board, to rebalance this statistic in the future. We need to have a proper balance between the international and the domestic market, and this is what we will be looking for in the near future.
Can I ask you a further question? We cannot have a discussion about Geneva's economy without addressing the importance of France voisine. For listeners not familiar with the area, or those listening who don't speak French, this is the area, in English we'd call it neighbouring France, comprises the significant French towns of Annemasse, Gex, Ferney-Voltaire and Divonne, to mention just the biggest. And they are all very close to Geneva. Bear in mind that 96% of Geneva's border is shared with France, 96%. And I understand around 80,000 people a day cross into Geneva from France. Thierry, tell us about your sector and how it depends on neighbouring France, on the frontalier, namely commuters who cross the border daily. How have you managed during this pandemic crisis? What worries you about the future? And what, if anything, encourages you, particularly concerning the frontalier issue?
Good question, Michael. First of all, let me tell you that 3/4 of my staff are frontaliers. So what we mean by frontalier, they are the commuters who cross the borders every day. From March 16 through March 10th, they all stayed at home, and they were on RHT. What we call RHT is the partial unemployment. As of 11th of May, we have reopened some food and beverage outlets and had to deliver some attestations to the staff to cross the border again. And finally, what worries me the most is that today we cannot really see the end of the tunnel, and that there are no encouraging news in sight, not at all.
Okay, that's pretty straight. Let me just go to Vincent for a minute. I'll come to you, Adrien, next. You've got the big picture there, Vincent, because of your position at the CCIG. How dependent is Geneva on France voisine from a business point of view? I mean, in terms of shoppers, workers, money, etc. Give us some basic numbers.
Well, I mean, as a rule, one can say that the very prosperity of Geneva derives from its openness to the world. Geneva is often branded the smallest of the large cities, and it's truly a global village in light of the 100 organization, 1,000 multinational companies that are located here. So it's quite a unique ecosystem. And as you rightly mentioned, 100 plus kilometers or borders are shared with our large neighbor, France. So again, in spite of the political borders, what we witness here in Geneva is a global business community that goes well beyond the physical borders, and hence the difficulty to implement such restrictive measures. And I think Thierry is perfectly right in that sense. What we need to find is that very difficult balance, because of course health will always be key, but on the other hand we need to be as pragmatic as possible in order not to kill the economy, and particularly the one you're representing, which is fully dependent upon the outside world.
Adrien, you wanted to say something?
Well, maybe on a positive note, because it's all, and we know it's complicated. It's hard to have a bright side, because it is really, we are passing through a crisis, and it can be very complicated if it lasts too long, because we need to keep the infrastructure, and the financial stability of the establishment is pretty tough. But what I can say on a positive note is first that Forbes did that ranking, that Switzerland was ranked as #1 destination that went through the first part of the crisis. There's been a recent study that has been made globally to ask persons what were their destination they would first travel to, and we are in the top 3. So we are second, in fact. So that's very positive to say that once the border will be open and that people feel safe again, they will come to Switzerland and to Geneva. So I think we should support any kind of measures that would help people not being on quarantine, as Thierry was saying. So improve the testing, tracing, so that people can basically travel and feel safe, because people want to travel. We, with our convention bureau, are following all the congresses, associations, and they all say we postpone the event, but we want to come. It has been a lot of digital events, phygital approach, but everybody says the same. We want to meet again. We want to meet physically in that destination in Geneva, because they know we can have it in the perfect way.
Dan, just give me a quick answer to this question. Just in your own establishment here, how dependent you are on frontaliers as customers and as workers?
As Thierry says just before, part of the team working in the kitchen and in the service are frontalier, and those people are really great tools for our economy. Instead of some people saying they are stealing the jobs from Swiss people, from people from Geneva, they actually are doing the jobs that most Swiss citizens don't want to make. So we need this powerful force of work, and also they spend money in Geneva. They are not only doing jobs, working here, but they also spend money in restaurants. They come here for coffee, for drinks. They come here for a spritz in the evening. And I think those frontaliers are very useful for Geneva. And I want to finish also on a good note, some positivity. Those people are coming back again to work. The RHT, for many of them, is kind of finished. They start to work again. Most of the restaurants, like me, had 50% of the team unemployed, and now I was able to hire 2 more who were on the RHT, which means the situation is getting a little bit better. We can see the sales are a bit better, so we really hope that October and November will start to follow the first 10 days of September, which we work pretty well, which is the case for most of the restaurants around, and let's hope that we go on the right direction now, even though it's going to take some
Okay,
time.
thanks. As we're moving towards the end of our conversation, let's just look at things from a slightly different perspective. Because the past 6 months have been so unusual, there's been naturally a lot of talk about the changing nature of work, that working from home as an option might become more widespread, even permanent for some. the changing nature of large urban populations in city centres and the economic environmental impact of a reduction in the daily movement of large numbers of commuters. I have two questions for all of you. What is your assessment? What are your observations of the changing nature of work in Geneva as we are forced to come to terms with COVID-19? And the second question is this in this time being forced upon us now as business people and all of us in society to think radically different about things and change our behaviour, or is it a little too early to think and act radically? And just a final point, maybe because I'm maybe a bit behind the curve, a bit slow to the trend, if radical things are happening already, what's going on and what is actually being actioned? If you can give me some examples about the changing nature of work. Thierry, why don't you start on this?
Well, it's not an easy answer, but for sure, we have indeed observed the impact of teletravail, working from home. However, you can imagine that this is basically not an option for our industry, as we really feed ourselves with personal contact with our customers, but also personal contact with our staff. In my opinion, in the hotel industry, things will not radically change overnight or in the near future. However, we have also learned how to work differently, for sure, and for this, our authorities therefore needs to allow a free circulation again, so that the business may pick up again.
Maybe three different points that I see that will definitely change. One linked to transportation, air traffic particularly. We saw after the terrorist attacks that we had measures, security measures that have been implemented in all airports. I think that this will definitely happen and it will last. There will be some tasting and tracing because other epidemia will come. So I think we will have new measures that will happen in the airports, at the entrance and at the exit. We need it. We are also asking for it, so we don't need to have people in quarantine, but really trace them. The other one is it has been such a digital acceleration. Everybody did home office or digital conference, digital training. Everybody is fed up with this kind of... So we saw the limit. We saw the limitation of these digital tools. We experimented them. We use them. We know that it can work, but we also saw the limit of it. So I think it's very important to see that it will never be an all digital. People need to meet each other. There are some things that you cannot say through digital channels. There are no corridors on the internet. That's our ambassador at Zellweger who was saying for the international meetings, people come and travel because there are some things that are so confidential that they need to speak about it between four eyes in a corridor. And so far, you don't have that in the on the internet. And also the social gathering. There are some things, the serendipity, things that just happen because you met, you never expected that. You cannot find this on the internet. So that is the second thing. And we run out of time. The third thing, I'll tell you on another interview maybe.
Thank you. That was Adrien. Thank you. And it's good. It's the first time the word spontaneity has been mentioned. That's so important in what we're doing, the human contact. Vincent, give us your point of view on this bigger picture, on the changing nature of work and how that might affect us.
Well, indeed, I believe that there will be a change of paradigm. But at the end of the day, what will remain is the human-centric approach that we need to privilege here. And I fully subscribe to what has been said. We need, again, to meet again in all senses, as we do here around that round table in that very nice venue. We need humanity to come behind, and this also comes with, I guess, proximity, which is key, and with solidarity, which is another key element. So Michael, how optimistic I am, because I guess this is the best fuel in life. And my humble hope, wish, and belief is that we will grow stronger, because indeed that crisis will be an accelerator. There'll be severe damaging collateral damages and consequences, as we all appreciate. But again, I believe that we will see the light, and a bright light at the end of the tunnel. And in the meantime, let us all be as determined and courageous as we can. Thank you for having me.
We're almost at the end of the show now. We must be positive, at the same time practical and pragmatic. So let's end with each of you telling me 3 things that top your list as absolute musts that you are engaged in or must be done soon, and by whom, in order to get Geneva back on its feet. Thierry, why don't you kick off on that? 3 things that must be done, and by whom?
Yeah, let me maybe be a little bit straightforward
please.
Repeat what I said in my introduction. First of all, I am convinced that the government needs to find a better balance between the economic and the sanitary measures. Better balance for sure. Now it's too much of sanitary and not enough economy. Second might be also to lift the quarantine measures and to keep as much as we can the borders open. And number 3, not only in my sector, but in all sectors of the economy, I believe that the government needs now to consider writing off the COVID-19 loans guaranteed, because if we don't do this, we might have a lot of bankruptcy in a not-too-distant future.
Just explain, sorry, for the benefit of those who may not be familiar with that expression, what did you mean by that?
I mean that during the last 6 months, most of the industry, and the hotel industry in particular, we had the opportunity to go to our bank and get a loan, what we call the COVID-19 loan. And most of us, we took this opportunity because we had no other opportunities than doing this. And it's why I'm asking now the government to writing off the COVID-19 loans guaranteed.
Okay, thank you. Adrien, your quick 3 key things.
I'll get on the 3 key things. The first one is we need to build trust again. To say, you can travel, it is safe to hold meetings, we will take all the measures. So really build trust for the travelers that they can come to a city. That's the first thing. The second one, and we saw how important it was when it was about the world after, is continue and strengthen our efforts towards sustainability. I think it's a key thing because it's not only about the crisis, but it's also about taking care of our world. And we do that already since last year, being very much involved in the global destination sustainability movement. A lot of different actors are doing that. As Daniel was saying here at the Milan, they follow short circuit, they take care of the local producers. And we saw during the crisis how important it is to have local producers. And the third one, and it's maybe the most important, go on geneve.com and you'll find plenty of good ideas to travel to Geneva. We have the Geneva box, we have the Geneva gift card when you spend 2 nights, we have the chèque restaurant, so the bon for the restaurants where you can have a lot of good ideas to convince you to come again, travel and come to Geneva.
Great, Adrien, thanks. Vincent, give us your 3 quick things.
I will be quick. I endorse what has been said. We call upon the government to, again, strike the right balance between health, which is key, of course, and the economy, which also plays a decisive role. And therefore, all pragmatic measures that can be taken vis-à-vis the tourism industry, such as testing and tracing, instead of taking very large bans that would prevent an entire segment of travelers to come to beautiful Geneva, is something that we should do. So pragmatism is one. Then I would also highlight trust, because at the end of the day, that's the buzz and the key word. Nowadays, this is what we need to build upon, and it goes also with the first call. To give you an example, at the Chamber, not only has the entire team come back to work physically, because I guess this is very important in terms of collaboration between all of us, but also we've resumed in strictest compliance with all sanitary measures, and this is possible, and this is the call that I'm doing here. We've resumed all our events, and we're having a large event soon. We've obtained all the blessing from the Médecins Cantonal, and the authorities also need to be proactive in that respect and to lead the way, and this is what we are advocating at the Chamber. And third, going forward, of course, I mentioned the sustainability will be a key factor, because if we want that crisis not to happen in 10 years down the road, we need to draw some lessons for it, but let's remain positive again.
Daniel, we're in your house, so we give you the last word. What are the sort of 2 or 3 key things that need to be done?
Actually, most of the keys have been said,
Okay.
but I have just one in my case, because I'm not speaking only for my restaurant, but I'm speaking also for all the restaurants around and all the shop owners in Geneva, because we have many people who work in shops around here. They come here for lunch or dinner. What makes me very worried is that this tourisme d'achat is making a big problem in Geneva. If you go during the weekend, even during Greek nights, you go in Annemasse, Gex, Saint-Genis-Pouilly, in front of the restaurants, all the license plates are Geneva. This means a lot of money from Geneva is spent outside Geneva. So if the Office of Tourism, the Chamber of Commerce of Geneva, is making a huge effort to promote the businesses, to make people spend money in Geneva, at some point we're going to have to take care of this money who's spent outside Geneva, outside the canton of Geneva. I understand some families go shopping in big markets because they have 4 or 5 kids, they have small salaries. I can understand that for money reasons they go. But just for restaurants, I think a lot of people from Geneva are not even eating in Geneva now at night. They go outside to France, and this is a big problem for all the restaurants in Geneva.
That's a good point to make. We're running over time. Adrien, Thierry, Vincent, thank you so much for joining me this morning. And Daniel, un grand merci, my best friend,
Merci, Michael. Thank you very much.
Your time and your hospitality here at Le Milan. My guests today have been Daniel Grangier, proprietor of the restaurant Le Milan, Adrien Genier of the Geneva Tourism and Congress, Thierry Lavalley of the Fairmont Grand Hotel and president of the Geneva Hotel Association, and Vincent Subilia, director general of the Geneva Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Services. Gentlemen, thank you all. Thank you.
That was the McKay Interview with Michael McKay. And don't forget, you can hear that interview again on our website, worldradio.ch.